So there's no perfect time to start, and there is no course that will make you ready in this area. I learned WordPress through an agency position. I also got a certification in website development, but none of that really brought me the same learning value as it did when I just started building things, when it came to websites. The moment I went solo and started building for actual real clients is where I made the connection of how things work and what are the best practices. The fastest path to confidence is just building, full stop. So in this video, I am going over where I got most of my background experience, such as working for that agency. Was it worth it when I went through it? Also for the fact that was it worth it getting a website development certification? And what were the real lessons I learned when I actually just started building for clients? One of the biggest things I learned was trying to get out of tutorial hell. You find yourself going on YouTube, buying a course, looking at the videos they have, and just constantly watching videos to learn the basics. And you find yourself in this constant loop of just going through these motions, not really putting yourself out there to build, just watching and watching. You can consume content for months on end, but you will end up still freezing because you don't really understand where to start when you're building. Knowledge is one thing when it comes to courseware and what you're learning, but practical application is its own beast as well. That is where you're going to truly learn the aspects of where you fail, where you fall short, and where you actually excel at. So how did I actually learn? Working with an agency gave me structure and gave me the ability to understand how things work in a workflow of a project. I was able to understand what a client's needs are, working with real deadlines, seeing what a client's needs were, seeing the feedback we got on website projects really gave me the understanding like what are people looking for and how to excel in those areas. Having real clients under someone else's roof is an experience I valued immensely. The company was amazing to work with, and it was also just all worth it in general because it gave me the basics understanding of how an agency operates with WordPress and where they take it from there. There are some things an agency can fall short on when it comes to their WordPress stack, and there's also different opinions when it comes to how things should be employed with an agency. But mainly, this gave me the idea of how site structure should be, as well as best practices. The certification gave me an understanding of how the web works in general, but as well as just coding the basics itself. Sure, I built a lot of WordPress sites when it comes to this area, but I got a lot of my background experience and a lot of my dev experience just coding general HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Understanding the very basics of code and understanding how that works with the web gives you more than enough value and experience to utilize in that WordPress site, but also sites you may build statically in the future. And I cannot tell you enough how much you should know the basics of code. You shouldn't depend on AI when it comes to your code. You need to understand the foundations, how semantic HTML works, what are the best practices when it comes to your HTML for accessibility, for performance. These all play in a factor of understanding how code works and how you utilize it. However, going solo and actually building things for real clients, that actual pressure of a project that it depended completely on me is where I truly learned how things operate and how much I learned over this time of knowledge. It wasn't the fact of just constantly watching videos. It wasn't the fact of constantly just building for another agency. When I was on my own, it was all me. Understand where my faults were and how to correct those faults. So what does it mean when I'm talking about just building and getting started that way? Mainly, it just means pick any project, any website, anything you just want to mess around with and just start building with it. For example, building out a restaurant website. Go for it from start to finish. The styles you build with it, the information you're putting on there, all of it needs to play into the fact of practice. And practice makes perfect for you. Going through the whole workflow process of like you would for a real client is going to give you invaluable experience. Another great lesson is to honestly break things. Try to see the limits of your build. Check your work on every device, responsiveness. Make sure you're actually testing the buttons. Go through the actual workflow of the user experience through the site you just built. Are you able to make restaurant orders at this point? Do you go to a blog post and search for the blog post and a critical error appears? These are all things and factors that are going to play into your experience. Another great thing to do is just rebuild something you had previously because you're going to grow with time. There are things I built 3 years ago that I revisit now. I was like, you know what? I could do this better now. And I will go back and fix those items. So I go in and actually implement everything I've learned up to this point in day and adjust. It's all about adaptability. And it's all about really just, you will learn as you grow throughout the years. And the more you know, the more you gain knowledge, the more building experience you understand, the more you're going to be able to utilize and perform at such a higher rate. And each build you get into honestly compounds your work. The 10th build you get into is going to be a lot faster than the first one you did. Global styles, components, easy to use elements. These are all things that factor into your build and that you can utilize and make your sites even faster. So honestly, what should you be focused on and learning during this point? I cannot stress this enough, your HTML and CSS basics. This is the very ground foundation of what it means to be a developer and a designer, a good designer in that matter. And you need to understand what you are looking at. You also need to understand how WordPress works under the hood. Themes, templates, the block editor, and even custom fields that you may create with ACF or MetaBox. These are all things and aspects you want to get into, understand how they work in relation with each other. I cannot tell you how many times how I may stumble on another site that the developer built, and they may have two page builders built in there. For example, an Elementor and a Divi page builder added there. That's a no-go. You shouldn't be adding two page builders onto your website, especially a WordPress website that causes a lot of bloat, a lot of CSS styles loading in at the same time, and just overall shoddy work when it comes to that area. You should honestly pick something and build with it. It doesn't have to be Breakdance. I tout Breakdance a lot. I love the system. It is an excellent page builder. But if you're using Elementor or if you're using Divi, know that page builder inside and out. And you don't even have to use a page builder. If you are a block-based editor, feel free to go with whatever technology or stack you decide to go through. There are advantages and disadvantages to each thing. Even Breakdance has its disadvantages, but still know it front to back, because that's going to help you understand the capabilities of a website and how far you can build and go with it. I cannot stress this one enough either, is your SEO fundamentals. Google has excellent developer guides when it comes to SEO fundamentals and even with AI generation content for these days. But these aspects are going to be something that's brought up to you quite frequently when it comes to your clients. They're going to want to know, what are the basics? Am I doing things right? What is schema? What is a proper heading structure? Are my blog posts actually ranking? Are my blog posts optimized? What does it mean to actually rank a site? What is Google Search Console? These are all things that are going to come up with your builds and how you're going to be able to support a client. Now, when it comes to supporting a client through SEO, that is a whole nother field, and it can get very expansive into what actually needs to be done with a website. What we're discussing here is just the basics, the main fundamentals of actually building with your website and setting your client up for success with your SEO fundamentals. Another thing you should look into is basic performance and security. Hosting, caching, SSL, and backups. These are all very important aspects to website design and development, especially when working with WordPress. Understand how these all relate to each other and what they're being utilized for is extensively important. For example, I've run into a few developers in the past who like to build with something like a Go high-level website, or high-level sites as they're called now. Mainly, they didn't understand how bloaty those sites could be. The servers they could depend on are not exactly the best when it comes to client usage. And so I usually avoid building in those builders as much as I can. If a client already has a site built in there and not interested in building in a WordPress site, you have to make do with what you have at that point. So understanding the limitations of those site builders is something that you're going to want to look into. And hosting is another big idea. For me, I have done my extensive research and I've used plenty of hosts in the past. I know which ones to avoid and which ones actually perform pretty well. There will be a separate video on that aspect, but for now, just know that you should do your own research when it comes to hosts and make sure that you're making the right choice there. Really ensure that your host provides a free SSL. There are some out there that try to sell you on an SSL. Most are free these days, so definitely utilize them. And essentially, backups is extremely important. Always have a backup for your site. Your host needs to have one. You need to have one that's going externally from your host as well, too. This will save you in the long run. I cannot tell you how many times a plugin updated or something happened to a site that a client may have decided to add some custom code and break the site, and we needed to resort to a backup. Having more than one is essential because of the fact you don't know if that backup you have is going to work until you actually hit restore. Now, having multiple options there, that's something I want to make sure I have always, because I want to be able to bring back my site immediately. And something that's really going to play a big factor into your knowledge is your mindset. You need to shift it from, am I ready, to what will this teach me? Your first few sites are not going to be perfect. They're not going to be the best, but you can look at that 5 years from now and look back on those sites and say, this is where I started, look where I am now. Every client problem you get faced with and end up solving becomes a piece of a skill that you're going to be able to utilize later on for your builds. It's essential to mess up. You're not going to be able to build sites without messing up at some point. So don't be afraid to do it. Just do it. Imperfect work delivered beats perfect work never started. So here's what I want you to do since you're watching this video. Build a fake business site right now. Pick a local business type, make it look real. Then tear it down and then build it faster. Do that 3 times and you will learn way more than you would have learned just watching videos for the past 6 months. It is invaluable knowledge. And not only that, you could utilize that as part of your portfolio in the future since you're just getting started. It's something that you could present to clients and say, this is something I built and I'm proud of. It is a mock website of this business type. Have a look. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe or leave a comment below if you have any questions. I'm very excited for the next video. It's going to go into what really got my agency going and how to make local connections in your community to go do the same. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you all got something out of it. If anything, hopefully it puts you in the right direction for your agency or for you yourself as a freelancer. And see you guys in the next one. Let's boogie.